Today we're going to talk about tying thread. We get so many questions in the shop over which threads are good for what, which thread should I use for which flies, the advantages and disadvantages of threads, which threads are stronger than other threads, which thread should I use for deer hair, for salmon flies, for all kinds of questions. So we're just going to do an in-depth look at just about every thread we carry in the shop, what they're good for, and which ones you should be tying with for your flies. So let's take a look at them. Okay, so I grouped these threads into 3 different categories. We're going to have flat threads, round threads, and specialty threads. And we're going to go over the advantages and disadvantages of all those. So first of all, let's get over how threads are measured in thickness and in amount of bulk they're gonna have on the hook. So start with the flat threads here on the left and round threads here on the right. For the purposes of every thread we have in our shop, all the round threads are going to be measured in aught. So you'll see, like, we have this uni 3-aught right here, Vivus 8-aught, Vivus 12-aught, 16-aught, 8-aught uni. This big fly is kind of like the max of the aught for uni, but it is a round thread, so it doesn't really have an aught rating. But just know that big fly thread is as big of a round thread as you can buy here in the shop anyway. And then we get a regular 6-aught uni right there. So here, the larger the number, the thinner diameter thread, and the easier it is to break. So 16-aught is what you're going to want to use for your little tiny size 32 midges. 3-aught is what you're going to want to use for your big, saltwater flies. And the big fly thread is just huge. A lot of guys use that to make bucktail jigs and things like that. So why would you want to use a round thread? Well, round thread, just as its name suggests, it's round. So it doesn't lay perfectly flat on the hook when you're building up a body. And what that does is it's going to create a lot of hills and valleys in the on the body of the fly, which is going to allow for a better grip for things like feather stems, slippery hairs. Just anytime you need like an extra grip. You find that if you're using a flat thread, things are slipping on you a lot. Maybe try one of these. The uni threads are all waxed. The Vivus round threads are not waxed as far as I can tell. But they're all round, and they all do a great job gripping feathers. I use the 16-aught Vivus myself when I'm tying up my really small midges. I know Joe Cordero loves the 3-aught uni when he's making his flat wings. A lot of the traditional salmon fly tires will use 8-aught uni just because of its gripping capabilities when they're trying to lay married wings on the backs of the of all the flies. So that's what round threads are great for. Over here, we're going to have flat threads. And these are all flat nylon threads right here. So just as the name, suggests, when you lay these down on the hook, they lay down perfectly flat. They're made up of multi-filament nylon, and they're relatively strong for the diameter. Kind of the original was this Danville's flat waxed nylon thread. It's really become a staple in saltwater fly tying, and a lot of guys will still use this just because it's what was traditionally used. A lot of the old books you'll look at, if they have saltwater flies in them, most of them will call for some color of Danville's flat wax on there. And the Danville's flat wax is a 210 denier, and denier is basically just a way to measure the weight of the thread. They take out so many thousands of yards of this thread, and then they weigh up the whole bunch of it to see how heavy it is. And it's just an old way of measuring thread. All you really have to know is that the higher the number, the denier, the thicker the thread is. So just the opposite of the aught. The higher number denier, the thicker it's going to be. So 210 is thick. This Vivus power thread 240 right here is a little bit thicker. UTC has a 140 and a 210, and they even go up to 280. UTC goes on to 70, as well as the Vivus power thread It goes to 70 and 140. Now, the Vivus Power Thread is a little unique in this group here, as it's the newest flat wax thread to come out, and its strength to diameter ratio is much higher than these other threads. So where you have like this Danville's 210, the Vivus Power Thread 140 is actually going to be even stronger than this 210. And with real no drawbacks that I found. A lot of people have switched over to this Vivus Power Thread. Rich Strollers kind of turned me on to it a few years ago, and I haven't really looked back since. I know Steve Cook's tying with it now. A lot of guys who have traditionally used the Danville's, once they switch over to the Power Thread, they don't seem to go back, because it really allows you to drop down a size in thread. So you can get a thinner thread with less bulk on your hook. You don't have to pay attention to the amount of turns as you have so much with the with a thinner thread. So for all my saltwater flies, I'm really using this Vivus 140 Power Thread pretty much for everything now. It's stronger than a lot of it's stronger than all the 210 denier threads that I've used in the past, and it just allows more room for error when tying flies as far as bulk on the hook goes. All these threads are waxed. They're all going to lay down really flat. They do grip the materials well. It's just the body is super flat on top of the hook, so the materials don't have those hills and valleys to kind of sink into like they would with a round thread. So you lose a little bit of grip on materials, I'd say, but you gain it in a nice smooth body that you really it's a lot harder to get with a round thread than it is with these flat wax threads. And now we'll move on to the specialty group of threads. And the first specialty thread that seems to be the most widely used in the shop is going to be this Danville's monofilament thread. So this is just a nylon mono thread, not unlike what you would use to go out there and tie your leaders with. It's just a lot thinner. It stretches a little bit, but it doesn't. It also has memory when you have it on the hook. Guys who love this thread, Bob Popovic's used it a lot. You got Johnny King ties with this thread. Mike Rice exclusively uses monofilament. It's going to disappear as soon as you put any kind of head cement over it. So it's really a good thread if you're tying surf candies and things like that, where you're going to tie in foils, and you don't want the thread to show up over the foil. This just disappears right into the thread. It's a little bit harder to work with because it's a little more brittle than these other threads. It has a little bit of stretch to it that you have to get used to, but it's really easy to stretch it too far and break it when you're first starting off with it. It seems to be one of these threads, once guys start using it, they'll either love it or hate it, and they almost tie exclusively with it, or they won't use it at all. So give this a shot and see if you like it. I tie with this sometimes if I'm doing surf candies. I'll use the mono thread. It's not my first choice, but I still like it. It's a good thread. Kevlar thread. This is probably one of the most underused threads we have in the shop. So this is a round thread as well. It's made out of Kevlar. You would think Kevlar would be super strong. It's not incredibly strong, but what it is it's very cut resistant. So if you're tying flies for muskie, bluefish, barracuda, anything with sharp teeth, and you want the ultimate in cut resistance, in your thread, Kevlar is where it's going to be. I wouldn't really use this for anything else, to be honest with you. It's a little bit harder to work with. It doesn't grip materials that well, but it is extremely cut resistant. You'll notice you'll even have like a little bit of a hard time trying to cut it with your scissors when you're tying with it. These threads are GSP threads, and UTC makes one as well. Semperfli calls theirs nano silk, which could be a little misleading because you might think you're buying a silk thread. It's not silk at all. It's a GSP, so it's a gel spun fiber thread. What these threads have going for them is they are incredibly strong for the diameter, even stronger than the Vivus Power thread. Nothing else is going to be anywhere near the strength of these GSP threads. A lot of guys will use these for spinning deer here, and anywhere you have to put a ton of pressure on the thread and on the hook to get your desired effect. These threads do not take dye very well, so you'll usually only see them in white and black. UTC was dyeing theirs, but if you'll notice, if you've used that, they seem to, the dye just seems to slide right off the thread and gum up your bobbin. So I would suggest only using this thread in white and black. The white will pretty much disappear when you put head cement over it. and the black will be good for all, all your dark colored flies. And we have this in diameters, I think, up 30 denier all the way up to, I believe we have 250 GSP, but really anything over 150 is going to be extremely difficult to break. You'll probably bend the hook before you break the thread. The only reason you would want to use a thicker GSP, in my opinion, is if the GSP is actually cutting through the materials, which can happen. Sometimes it can just saw right through the deer here, and that's one of the biggest problems with the GSP. It can be, if you're putting a lot of pressure on it, it can cut right through your materials. The other drawback with it is it's extremely slippery. It doesn't grip materials that well at all, and it'll even slip off itself when you're trying to build up a head. You'll notice that your wraps will start sliding forward. So it's I really wouldn't use this thread as a main thread unless you're just tying deer hair bugs all the time. This is kind of a specialty thing that, if you're going to try spinning deer hair and you're going to, do a lot of flies like that, then you might want to pull up, pull one of these spools out. But for the most part, this is not an everyday thread. And we have silk threads at the shop, a whole bunch of silk. This is one of the older kind of spools of silk that you'll see. A lot of the traditional soft tackle guys, like Sylvester Neames and all those guys traditionally would have used silk thread. So guys who are trying to tie those flies true to the heritage way will source out these threads. Most popular were from gossamer and parasols, and especially the orange colors. This silk thread isn't very strong, but when it gets wet, it changes color. And if you use cobbler's wax on it, it will change color even further. So the combination of the pure silk, the cobbler's wax, the thread getting wet is, the magical combination that a lot of the soft tackle gurus will swear by. And, they say that it really can't be duplicated with any other kind of thread. So if you're looking to tie up, the original partridge in orange or the partridge in green, any of those old school flies, you might want to source out some gossamers or parasols, silk thread, and see if it makes a difference for you. But we have modern silks in the shop as well. Semperfly makes a silk thread. But again, these are really silk threads. I would say 99% of the people buying them are tying soft tackle flies. And we also have floss in the shop. Most popular is going to be just regular uni floss, and then a uni stretch floss. Just as the name implies, the stretch floss will stretch, and the uni floss is just a regular multi-strand floss. A lot of traditional salmon flies will call for floss bodies. Usually it's going to be the regular uni floss that you'll actually separate the corded floss into 2 or 3 different strands. You'll tie in one of those strands and you'll wrap the body with the floss. The stretch kind of shrinks in diameter when it's being stretched on the hook, so you don't get the you don't separate it into the strands like you do the normal floss, but you can kind of put it on a bobbin and wrap it around the hook like you would a regular thread. Most of the original old school salmon fly patterns, you're going to want to use the regular floss. Unless the pattern specifically calls for stretch floss or you're having a really hard time with this regular floss, I would use the regular floss for any of those patterns like that. So yeah, again, just a quick overview. If you have a denier rated thread, the higher the number, the thicker and stronger the thread is going to be. The Vivus Power thread is probably 1 or 2 categories stronger than all the other thread. So if you have a 140 power thread, you're at least as strong as a 210 thread, in any other category. Power threads are all gonna, these denier threads are all gonna be flat, and they are all waxed. So that's the denier threads. The regular round threads, again, they're gonna be in aught measurements. You got, 16 aught all the way up to 3 aught. These are all round. The uni thread is waxed. The Vivus threads are not. There's a Danville monocore thread as well. And the round threads are going to offer you a little bit better grip on the materials, but you sacrifice that nice flat body that you can get with the flat threads. So if you're tying a lot of feather flies, a lot of hair flies, or you just like the feel of a round, a round thread, this is the way to go. And then we have all the specialty threads. Your GSP for spinning deer here. Again, if you're just using, just want to get started with it, I would suggest the 150 denier. It's a good all-around size. You can tie most of your bass bugs and deer hair things with that. I wouldn't really go much smaller than that. You'll start cutting through the materials unless you need, something specialty where you need a really strong thread with a really small diameter. Then you can kind of drop down. But for spinning hair, I would start at 150 and even go up from there. Then you're going to have these old school style spools of the silk thread, and those are for soft tackles. Mono, like I said, Johnny King, Mike Rice. Give it a shot. It's going to be too thick for a lot of your trout flies unless you're tying streamers. But for saltwater flies, it's pretty much the right diameter and the right strength to get most of it done. Kevlar is going to be for all of your cut resistant flies: bluefish, muskie, pike, pickerel, barracuda. That's when you want to use the Kevlar thread. If you're not tying flies for those species specifically, I would say skip this and just use a regular thread. And then the floss, traditional salmon fly, and any fly that calls for a floss body. These are not threads you're just going to want to tie flies with. They're way too thick, but they do make a beautiful body once you separate the strands of the floss and wrap it in. It really can't be replicated with anything else. So I hope this helped. Any other questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. And if you could like and subscribe to our videos, that helps us out a lot. And we'll be able to put out a lot more content like this. Thanks.